Wonder what great things we've wrought. Man is made in God's image, and part of our godness, if you want, or part of being made in his image, is this desire to create things. We just sang a bunch of songs. It's a creative effort. Somebody writes the song, somebody creates it, somebody does the melody for it, the music. They write the poetry. And then other people come along and they perform it. And sometimes it can be a performance. You can have a note by note by note by note perfect rendition of something, and it's flat. It's just simply a copy. Or sometimes you can have somebody who puts a little flourish in here or an embellishment here, and it becomes amazing. You can read a screenplay and go, I don't know what this screenplay is about. I can read a play and I wonder, this play is terrible. But when you see it acted out in the creative aspect, on the tray, the creative aspect, you see the creative aspect come into play, you go, yes, that does work. I want to look at some things that we have created. And we've written great things. And one thing to remember when we look at these things is when we say we mean mankind. We tend to like to, if you will, we like to ride on the coattails of others. About the most creative I can actually be when I'm out working in the yard is if I don't have a hammer, I have to find a rock to nail in a piece of wood. There's very little things that you can do on your own. Even things like an axe or a hammer or nails, or we shingled the shed recently. I don't know how to make shingles, but I can go buy them. So when we look at things that we've done, very few people have actually created something that we're working with that lasts. But we can look at stuff like this. This is, I can never say that right, it's the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. It's 828 meters high. 168 stories, the tallest building in the world. It's 163 floors, sorry. Tallest building in the world. It's about 300 meters higher again than the CN Tower. So if you've been up the CN Tower in Ontario, Toronto, something we're all familiar with, go up half that height again. This thing is monstrous. It's the tallest building in the world. And man-made it, isn't it amazing? However, it's not really a mountain. This is Table Mountain in South Africa, Cape Town, South Africa. If we wanted to figure out how high 800 meters is on this mountain, find my laser pointer here, 800 meters brings up about here. So even if you were to have this building in South Africa, it's not as high as the mountain in the background in Cape Town. And this is a small mountain. Looking for some pictures of Everest. Mount Everest is somewhere around 8,200 meters. It's 10 times taller than this tower. But we look at this tower and go, wow, what a great thing we've built. There's the gold mine in Carleton, South Africa. It goes about 3,900 meters into the earth. 3.9 kilometers deep for a gold mine. Must really want the gold. But it barely compares to the Marianas Trench at about 11,000 meters deep in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Not quite the middle, but it's in the Pacific Ocean. Or maybe the Earth itself, that is somewhere around 13,000 kilometers wide. We've just barely scratched the surface of this planet. We think, wow, what an amazing thing we've done. Or we get this one. Anybody here ever been here? Great Wall of China. Alleged to be able to see it from space. And then look at pictures from space, the question becomes, how far into space? Because while this thing is somewhere around 9,000 kilometers long, it's on average about 10 meters wide. So it's just this ribbon of wall. And when you look at some pictures from not too far in space, like a few miles up, what you find is you don't see the wall. What you see is the villages that have built along the wall. Because they're wider than a few meters. For example, you can't see Citadel Hill from space, but you can see Halifax. But we look at this and go, wow, imagine the technological work required to go. Imagine the engineering nightmare there, Ken. Take a couple of years, take a couple dynasties. Yeah. Right? The people who built this had no vision of it ever seeing it finished. But it got done. And we go, wow, that's amazing. Or this one. The world's most expensive structure to build. The Marianas Bay Sands in Singapore. $6,509 per square meter to build this thing.
Why?
Why? Because you can. It's not the largest building. It's an integrated tourist and casino with a rooftop infinity pool, 200 meters above the ground. You can swim right up to the edge and look 2 football lengths down. No thanks. Fortunately, it's not a wave pool. That would probably not go over very well. Ground level rooms, not in the tower itself, but down here in this ground level stuff, start at $269 a night for 2 people, minimum 2-night stay. So it's not bad, right? Gives you a pass to the roof. They want you to go to the casino. However, you can also get the straight suite for 4 guests at $6,100 a night. Is it worth it? For some people it must be. But that's not the most expensive hotel in the world. Used to be one in Switzerland, but now they've decided that the most expensive hotel in the world is the Empathy Suite at the Palms Casino Resort in Las Vegas. It's about 8,500 square feet for the suite. Right? Get an idea how big that is? 8,500 square foot suite for 4 people. You could go into the place and not see anybody who you're there with for the rest of the day. It goes at about $100,000 a night. So if you saved all your earnings, if you're an average salaried person for a couple years, you could go spend a night here. They want you to go to the hotel. They will tell you some famous people who stayed there, but they will not tell you who's paid to stay there. So part of it is like, hey, so-and-so stayed in our hotel. Look at us. You can come here too and sleep in the same bed that so-and-so slept in 2 years ago. Why do we look at all this stuff? All of our splendor, all of our opulence, all of the great things we do, and all the things we look at and go, wow, look at that. And you look through history, you've got the wonders of the ancient world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, the pyramids, and so on. All these things we look at, and they're nothing compared to God. We sang about God's greatness, about the music of the spheres, and it's our Father's world. And when we compare all the things we've done to just nature we see here, it's not much of anything. Everything that we've experienced as mankind has been played out on this little planet Earth, with very few exceptions. We got as far as the moon 50 years ago. Or did we? Well, we got as far as the moon 50 years ago. And we have probes in space, and we're exploring, and we're doing things. But basically, everything we've ever done, everything we know, is played out here. Just in the last week or so, they've announced that they have finally detected an extragalactical planet, they believe, in another galaxy. So it's a first. We think we've found an X-ray signature of what indicates there must be a planet there. And immediately people jump to, oh, I wonder if there's aliens there. Why haven't they contacted us yet? Standard conspiracy theory says the best evidence of a conspiracy is the lack of evidence. The reason the aliens haven't contacted us is have a look around. Would you contact us? Thereby proving aliens exist. It's like, where are the time travel? Anyway, we might have a great culture, but we forget how big God is and how little we really are. God is in control. We can't fathom God. I like Psalm 97. Psalm 97, reading the first 6 verses. The Lord reigns. Let the earth be glad. Let the distant shores rejoice. Clouds and thick darkness surround him. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of his throne. Fire goes before him and consumes his foes on every side. His lightning lights up the world. The earth sees and trembles. The mountains melt like wax before the Lord of all the earth. And the heavens proclaim his righteousness, and all people see his glory. The psalmist starts off by God reminding us that he is God, that he reigns. In this world of injustice, in this world of unrighteousness, in this world of doing things right, doing them wrong, helping our fellow man, God is in control. We may not always be ready to offer a word of praise, but he's still the God of worthiness. He's still the God we ought to praise. God isn't this hippie Jesus guy who Jesus Christ Superstar would portray. He's also not this great grandfather this doddering old fellow who you can pull one over on. We have all these images of God that float around in our mind, based mostly on our culture and what we've seen in movies, what we've read in books, what we've even meditated on ourselves. He's not a God to be messed with. He's not a God to take casually, and our culture nowadays is very casual. We approach God sometimes with, "Hey buddy, how you doing? How was your week? Good to see you back here. I'll be back again next week." And we forget that he is sitting on the throne. Verse 1 begins with that captivating summary for the whole psalm. The Lord reigns, let the earth be glad, let the distant shores rejoice. He's just not God here. He's God everywhere. The psalmist who wrote this, to him the distant shores might have been the coast of Italy, or Rome, or whatever it was called then. Maybe as far as the coast of Spain. Did they know back then what was beyond the Straits of Gibraltar and all this open ocean? Distant shores. God here in Nova Scotia is the God of the Marina Sands Hotel in Singapore, the other side of the world. He's the sovereign, self-existent, self-sufficient, eternal God, and he's the King of kings and the Lord of lords, and he reigns. When you reign, you're in charge, you're in control, you're managing things, you're dealing with it. God's not somewhere wringing his hands and going, "Oh no, what am I going to do now?" He knows what he's doing and it's planned. The universe is not without a sovereign. We don't live in a place of anarchy, as much as sometimes it seems on this planet. This is not a world of chance or fate or luck, and we're not all just accidents of evolution. God planned. We're not under the control of some sort of evil government, but we're under the government of a supreme God, a wise, holy, intelligent, just, benevolent God. If God weren't that way, he would cease to be the king. His throne is not based on current opinion or an ancient philosophy or our political system or even how we feel today. It's based solely on him and his attributes. The psalmist describes an earth that flees and melts in the presence of God, and then reflects at the end of verse 6 that all people see his glory. We see his glory in the sunrise, we see it in the sunset. This is a picture of the universe, visible universe that we can see. Kind of boring looking at this scale because these little dots are actually like mega supercluster galaxies. They're not individual stars. We can see roughly 4,500 stars with our naked eye. You go outside on any night, a nice dark field, no light anywhere, let your eyes accustomed to the dark. You can see about 4,500 stars. 5,000 if your eyesight's really good. The Milky Way galaxy that we're in, estimate of about 100 billion stars. That's about zero, I wrote the number down, 0.000045% of the stars in our galaxy that we can see. There's also an estimate of about 10 billion galaxies in the known universe. I don't know how they figure this out for sure. 10 billion galaxies, or if you want, that's a 1 followed by 21 zeros worth of stars. You can see 4,500 of them. God is impressive, and he manages it all. Incidentally, there are 7.5 times 10 to the 18 grains of sand on all the beaches of the world. We're playing with numbers here. So when you say like the stars are as many as the grains of sand on the shores, they're off by a factor of about 1,000. But the numbers are close enough that you get an idea of how big it is. And all the people see his glory. All people. Not just followers of Christ. Not just followers of God. Not just the Jewish nation. All people see his glory. And the question becomes, what do you do with that seeing? What do we as mankind do with seeing God's glory? Do we even notice? Most people don't. Do you show up in our pride and arrogance, thinking we can come and go from God's presence, though God were just like that old grandfather that I mentioned? Your best buddy from high school. Or do we approach him in awe and wonder? Do we have a fearful respect for him who created everything? In Exodus 19, God calls Moses up on the mountain to give him the law. And if you read through it, you find that basically they roped the mountain off to keep the people from climbing on the mountain. They say, whoever touches the mountain is going to die. Like, this is not a place you want to be. And as they stood at the base of the mountain, and the people heard the thunder and saw the lightning and heard the noise of a trumpet, and the mountain is smoking, what did they do?
Built a false calf.
What's that?
They built a calf.
They built a calf, yes. After a while, they built a calf. They couldn't handle this God who can make a mountain smoke and have lightning and thunder, and they couldn't handle a God like that. They said, give us a God we can manage. Give us a God we can deal with. Give us a God who we can control. And we can't control God. We want to. We negotiate with God all the time. God, if you do this for me, then I will do that. The surprising thing with God is sometimes he will do that thing you want because he wants you to do that thing. Thinking of Martin Luther. He's caught in a terrible lightning storm, as the story goes, and he said to God, like, you save me from this lightning storm, I'll dedicate my life to you. And he brought about the beginnings of the Reformation because he followed through. But this was a people in Exodus 19 who at least for a moment saw the majesty and might of God, and their hearts were stricken with fear and awe. And then they went off and built the calf because Moses took too long to come back. They basically had God fatigue. After 40 days of this mountain smoking and lightning and thunder, yeah, that's just the mountain. And they got on with their lives. They didn't march up to God and talk to him and make demands, though. They basically said, like, no, we can't have anything to do with this. We're nothing. C.S. Lewis had a book. It's actually, if you like C.S. Lewis writing, Out of the Silent Planet. It's Christian science fiction. And it revolves around 3 humans who end up on Mars. There's the good guy whose name is Ransom. C.S. Lewis is not very big on giving you names that you can't figure out what the person's going to do. His name is Ransom. And he's a philosopher sort, and he gets taken to Mars by these 2 other guys. And when they're there, they encounter the aliens, of course, the Martians. But unlike most science fiction where the aliens are projecting some aspect of human, where we have really nice, benevolent aliens who are trying to show us that no, our ways are wrong and they'll fix us, or we have really nasty aliens who reflect all the evil that man does and they're trying to wipe us out and take over the planet. These aliens are like, well, we wondered what was happening down there on Earth. It's the silent planet. And the reason it's silent is these aliens know about God. In the story, every planet has a spirit being who takes care of the planet, who God appointed to take care of the planet. Earth's spirit being was Satan, and he fell. But on their planet, there was no fall. And mankind, when they're there, they cannot figure out why these aliens aren't fighting with each other, why they're not trying to get ahead, why they're not trying to lord some behaviors over others, why they're cooperating, why they're behaving, if you will, in a godlike manner. There's a part in the story where Weston, the main antagonist, basically says to the overseer of Mars, essentially, he's not evil. He's just acting out of human kindness. And he says, you can't understand the way that humans are because you're not a human. You can't understand why we're doing this because you're not us. It says, and by the way, because you can't possibly understand, I can't possibly instruct you. And that's what we do as mankind. We try to impose our will on creation. We try to impose our views on how creation should work, on the way things should go. We take that part that I started at the beginning saying we're made in God's image, and we try to be God to everything. We try to lord it over other people. And we try to say, this is for the benefit of man. And usually it's for our benefit, our small group, our people, our family, our us. We will do things that further us. And that's the core of our following, that we, the created, would seek to instruct the Creator. Yet if we look at the verse, back here, the mountains, the tallest building we have built is nowhere near a small mountain. The deepest mine we have dug is nowhere near the deepest point on earth in the ocean. The farthest we've gotten into space other than one probe is we've barely gotten past Pluto. We're still in our solar system. And for the most part, we're still within the atmosphere of this planet. And we would seek to tell God, this is how you should do things. This is how it should work. This is what things should do. But it gets into our philosophies. We sort of think that God can't possibly understand life in 2020. He couldn't even understand life in 1950. We want to have a throwback to when things were more sensible and things made where men were men and women were women and all this stuff that you run into. History, and as they say, hindsight is 2020. Right? The way things used to be was better. Nostalgia is not what it used to be. And we have this idea that things were better then without realizing the traditions we grew up with are really just traditions that are 1 or 2 generations old. But we somehow think that we're more enlightened now, that we have figured things out more. Isaiah 55, verses 6 through 9. Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he's near. Let the wicked forsake his way and the unrighteous man his thoughts. Let him return to the Lord, that he have compassion on him, and to our God, for he will abundantly pardon. If you're going astray, come to God. He'll forgive. He'll have compassion. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. In the same way that the biggest tower we can build, the deepest mine we can build, the largest boat we can build, the largest building, the largest wall we can build, is nothing compared to God. The most amazing, awesome thoughts we can have are nothing compared to God's thoughts. You ever enter a room and you're talking about something and you go, I know the stuff these people are talking about. Ken, you're an engineer. You've been in meetings with other engineers who are just discovering something amazing about something. And you go, yeah, I've known that for 40 years. Right? I'm an IT specialist. I've been doing IT for 38 years or so. And you got these young whippersnappers who come and go, I just found out this really neat new thing. It's like, yeah, I was doing that in 1994. It's not new. Yes, it is amazing. You can do that. It's awesome. It's great that you discovered it as well. And that's just people comparing themselves to each other. God says, my ways are not your ways. My thoughts are not your thoughts. In the same way we look at this big tower and go, wow, look at that. Look at how much money I can spend staying a night in a hotel in Vegas. And we miss the fact that there's people out on the street starving. Woke. Anybody here woke? It's a recent term, but it sort of comes out of the American vernacular. The young people won't know what it is. It's basically this idea that you're now aware of certain social injustices, usually dealing with racial injustice or social injustice, but you're aware of all these things that are wrong in our society and you're taking steps to deal with it. The problem is people who are woke usually end up being virtue signaling, which says, I really believe in all these things and I'll take care of it, but I'm really not going to do anything about it because it messes up the status quo. And if you're not careful, you're going to get canceled. Usually you get canceled by woke people who decide that your views are wrong and they're just going to ignore whatever you say from now on. They're going to shut down your business, right? Your CEO said something wrong, Joy, the other day, so we're not going to buy your coffee anymore. Ever hear these types of things, right? This actor, 25 years ago, this actor wore a red shirt to a party. Granted, it was a Star Trek themed party, but they wore a red shirt to a party. Wearing red shirts is evil now. So something they did 25 years ago is wrong. And we're not going to watch any of their movies. And so on. And that's what society's gotten to, is this judgmental approach of, I'm right, you're wrong. But we all stand before this just God who says, it doesn't matter how much you think that you're enlightened. It doesn't matter how much you think that your way is the right way and you're taking care of people and you're doing these things. If you're doing it without me, you're wrong. Your ways are not my ways. Your thoughts are not my thoughts. What do? Proverbs 3, 5 and 6 says to trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. Because you're wrong. I'm wrong. The best we can do is get glimpses of what God is, how he wants us to act. We go through Scripture and we say, these are the themes that he has in there for us, the guide for right living. In all your ways acknowledge him, not just when you're preaching from the pulpit on a Sunday morning, or playing with the worship team, or sitting in a church service. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. The few trails that we walk on up at the cottage, the old rails to trails, and as you're walking along, you come around the bend, and then trains like to go straight lines as much as they can. So this is an old train bed. And you're looking 2 or 3 kilometers straight down the path. You can't see where it ends. That's a straight path. But you know where you're going. There's no dangers around the bend because there's no around the bend. And that's what God says he'll do. He'll make straight your paths. He will give you guidance. He will give you a direction. He will give you the straight way to travel. Trust in him. This is the creator of the universe. The person who made 1 times 10 to the 8, 10 to the 21st stars, 21st stars, of which we can see 4.5 times 10 to the 3. We can't even begin to grasp how much higher than us he is. And yet we would seek to control him. We can't even control the storm. And a hurricane comes. Just a storm on this little planet. And what do? We tell everybody, get away from the coast or evacuate. You can't stay there. It's not safe. And you put boards over your windows and you pray that maybe my village will be there when I come back. There's an earthquake and a tsunami comes along. There's a volcano. These are just what we would call forces of nature. We can't even control those. The worst thing that can happen to a ship on the ocean is for water to get inside of it. Boats are built to keep water out. Because when the water gets inside of them, they're going to sink. You can't even control that. God appeared to Isaiah the year that King Uzziah died. And he saw the Lord seated on the throne, exalted. And what was Isaiah's response? Cool! Great! Good work, God. Look how wonderful I am. I got to see a vision of God. No. He's fear-struck. He spends so much time in the chamber that they think he's dead. The bells stop ringing. There's a rope tied around this guy's ankle, so when you go into the inner sanctum, into the Holy of Holies, if you die because you had something wrong in your life and you didn't repent, God smote you, basically the guys outside weren't going in for you. They had a rope so they could drag you out. This is the God who Isaiah saw. And he saw the Lord seated on the throne. And he says, woe is me. I'm a man of unclean lips. And a people who are unclean. That's God. And with that vision, what does he do? He confesses his sins, and there's a question, who should I send? And Isaiah says, my brother Dave isn't busy tomorrow. Or, hey, my aunt is looking for something to do on the weekends. Isaiah says, pick me, I'll go. God changed Isaiah's life. Would we say for the better? You look at Isaiah's life from the point of view of how he lived after his encounter with God. In man's eyes, it was not very good. But God called him, and he responded. And God calls each of us. He asks us to respond. He's perfect in every way, God is. He's absolutely holy. He's absolutely pure. He's absolutely righteous. He's absolutely just. There's no darkness. And today, he calls us. We should rejoice. Life is hard. It's not always good, but God is still on the throne. What I like about Psalm 97, the first 6 verses, is it's got absolutely nothing to do with man. Until you get down to the point of saying, and all the people will see his glory. Because it's not about us, it's about God. He's still on the throne. He knows what's happening. He knows what's going to happen. One day it will be made right. And we need to never forget that this world is not our own. This is not the end. This is not all there is. So those distant shores rejoice. The mountains respond. The heavens proclaim his righteousness. And if you're a child of God, your kitchen is holy ground. Your living room is holy ground. This is holy ground. They're places of worship. Your workplace is holy ground. They're all places where God's righteous kingdom wants to reign. You're a child of the King. You're part of the kingdom. It goes with you when you go. You have the authority of the one before whom the mountains melt like wax. All of our plans, ideas, and objectives are trappings for us unless we're seeking God with them. Does being in God's presence move you to celebrate? Does it move you to praise? We said over the past few weeks, we can't tell you what it looks like because people celebrate in different ways. Beth has a student, very calm, sedate student who had a birthday this past week. Very shy. He's part of the Guatemala team and was about 4 months into the team before he would even talk to me from the team. His response to having happy birthday sung to him HCA style, it has not changed since you were there, Joy, as loud as you can, and off key as you can. Yeah. As loud as you can and as off key as you can. His response to it is different than the response of the kids who just love people to notice them and pay attention to them. You can worship different ways. The question is, are you worshiping? He is the sovereign of the universe. Is he the Lord of your life? Let's pray. Father, as we look at these things, as we think of these words, as we think on who you are, Lord, I realize we really can't see and understand and comprehend you. Paul talks about seeing through a glass, looking through darkly. But then we'll see you face to face. Lord, just help us to strip off the things that this world puts on us. Help us strip off our backgrounds and the things that are not of you. But Lord, to turn those things to further your kingdom here, to tell others about you, to reach the people on this planet with the good news of who you are. Lord, that they would see your glory and respond. And not just see your glory, and, oh, there's a sunrise, or the tide changed, or there's a volcano. So I just want to give you all praise, give you all glory, give you all honor. And just keep reminding us, keep refreshing us with who you are. In your name.